Good afternoon. Welcome to Owensboro Commissioners Work Session, September 13, 2022. I'll call this meeting to order. Item number 2 on the agenda, Owensboro Convention Center Annual Report. Jeff Esposito, OBG 360, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, good afternoon. And thank you for putting that up. So I'm here today. Happy to be here today. The family is settling into Owensboro beautifully. It's a lovely town. I've been here for about a little over 90 days so far. So, being from the outside, I don't mind saying the hard work and planning that you did is really paid off for folks like us moving here. It's absolutely lovely. So thank you. So, here to give you kind of a year in review of the fiscal year on behalf of, Spectra OVG 360 now since the merger. I'll just dive right in, but please feel free to ask any questions along the way. The facility had a great year. It was due to several factors. The strength of the team is probably the biggest one. There was a good handling of, as good as could have been, really, with the COVID pandemic. The group here initially went for this GBAC certification, which is just on the screen. It's not a Spectra product, but it was recommended by the company. Really embraced having a good cleaning standard, which of course gave meeting planners more comfort in coming back to this facility. And it's, I'd give that a fair amount of credit for the rebound. We'll get more into the numbers later and see the strength of that rebound, but it was significant. That along with, consistent good performance, ranked top 30 in the U.S., consistently, 6-time Reader's Choice Award for Convention South, 9-time Prime Site Award with Facility and Destinations Management. And I can tell you when, I was talking to some industry colleagues about, taking the GM role here, or even applying for the GM role here in Owensboro. When they hear Owensboro, the reaction that you typically get is like, ooh, Owensboro. Like, it's known in the industry as a really good facility, and sometimes we don't know that if we're living right here, it's not, we're not Los Angeles, we're not, top tier, but it is a darn nice convention center. It's just beautiful. So, people in the industry, especially up and down the coast on this side, really are familiar with that building. So I just wanted to share that as well. Jumping right into the numbers, that is our measure of success, right? Not solely. There's certainly community aspects of it as well, but oftentimes it's a darn good measure. So this fiscal year, I'm happy to report that the team beat budget by the convention center, outperformed budget by $357,210. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That actually gave an operating net profit for the convention center of $35,000, and that's significant. Owensboro Sports Center outperformed budget by $128,684. This beat last year's operating subsidy by $966,212. Beat pre-pandemic. So the pre-pandemic fiscal year 2019 had been the best on record. This past fiscal year outperformed it by $18,591. So financially significant, wonderful performance. This was due to events of all kinds. Conventions are back. Conventions came roaring back. These, of course, are a good measure because just about all events are going to have some form of economic impact, whether it's hotels, restaurants, shopping, whatnot. But conventions really bring that impact. So 16 conventions brought over 8,000 attendees to the venue, earned a net event income of $493,264. So Kentucky County Clerks is, at least I believe it's new. I don't know, they might have been here years ago, but I think that's a new one. General Association of Baptists, that is new. Precision Planning is new. Some others that we're talking about as well coming up in the future, but these were significant conventions. The sport court floor was really a sound investment. Hosted 5 events on the new sport court floor: indoor soccer, volleyball, basketball, brought over 6,000 attendees, earned a net income of around $36,000. Now we're going forward about double that, by the way. 15 event days for Energy on Ice, entertaining 2,200 guests and earning about $22,000 in gross ticket sales. Very solid performance there as well. You know, of course, it's more than just sports. REO Speedwagon brought in over 3,000 fans, earned nearly $200,000 in gross ticket sales. Tracy Lawrence and Clay Walker also welcomed over 3,000 fans and earned nearly $190,000 in gross ticket sales. And some historical events of local significance too. Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame celebrated high school basketball rivalries at 5 historic sites across the state, including the Sports Center. And that's just great community stuff. I mean, you know, for people that played there, now their kids are playing there, and so on. It's just terrific. You know, that's why some of these older buildings are just still such gems. You know, not every convention center creates events. You know, I think the vast majority of them, I'd probably say, don't. This is where our convention center is a little bit different because we actually create our own events. If there's any gaps in the calendar and there's not a promoter or an event or a booking, we'll launch our own event. So for example, Kentucky Arts and Crafts Expo, Breakfast with Santa, Mother's Day Brunch. The net event income from these self-created events were $215,000. That's what was generated from the events that were launched in-house. Net event income, $256,616. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir. You know, reserve seating for the 2021 Owensboro Air Show was sold out. That generated nearly $70,000 in net event income. Fourth Fest exceeded projected budget by an additional $4,000 in plus profit. Moving on, we also enjoy partnerships which are important to the facility's position in the community. We work very closely and, you know, with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm not going to steal their thunder because Mark's going to say a few words after me. Owensboro Health, you know, we conducted the drive-through COVID vaccine clinic, flu shot clinic, Wellness Wednesdays. Kentucky Legend, the Chamber of Commerce, certainly creating packages with the Hampton and Holiday Inn and others. So, you know, filling that, you know, role in the community that, you know, I think a properly run convention center should. And I think the team's doing a great job with that. So looking ahead, 2022 and 23. So here is the outlook as we see it today. So there's 13 conventions confirmed. The outlook is looking great. Expected to host double the number of youth sporting events. So there's going to be about 10 to 12 youth sporting events. 1.2 million is already on the books going into the start of the fiscal year. So that's in the year, what's already on the books, 1.2 million. And that's an increase of 250,000 compared to last year. So these are, you know, these are big numbers. These are good numbers. So I'm happy to be here today with some pages of really good news. So Jamie Sheffer, our Assistant General Manager and Director of Finance, is here with me. We're happy to stand for questions.
Questions?
Just one, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So you've been into other markets. What do you think why are we having such success here? Is it because of other things surrounding the convention center, or what is it?
Yeah, I've spent about 30 years in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then the last 4 in Gillette, Wyoming. So I've got, some experience, but I think just being in the business that long, you know other GMs and how things are going. When I'm on the management calls with Spectra or OVG, this is where I think the real value comes in, because I'm talking to 25 general managers at the same time. It's a really good position. There's a lot of buildings that are having really good years, or they had really good years. I think it's a combination of things. It's not any one. I think there were meetings that didn't happen and events that didn't happen because of COVID, and then they came back. So you got maybe a little more than you would have. I think the buildings like ours, for example, and you can see that based on what's on the books going into this year, is they didn't just accept that as good news. They still worked hard to make sure that is not it's not going to be an anomaly, that it's sustainable. I mean, that's of course what we're all hoping to see, So it's a big trajectory. So I don't, have a crystal clear crystal ball, to say how that'll pan out. But I think it's a matter of some meetings got delayed, and that the smart operators, and I thank my predecessor Laura for that, and Jamie and the team that was here. They queued it up nicely. They didn't sit back and take a break and just take that business. They kept booking stuff.
Right. Well, it looks like your sporting events, if you had 5 and you brought in, was it 6,000 people? Then if you're going to double that, I mean, I would assume that number would double. So that's really good news. It just tells me that the vision of looking forward at a sports complex is going to be a good thing to do.
Yes, Commissioner. I did have similar experience in Wyoming, where we launched a sports. I actually bought the same floor, so same color and all. Right. So we launched a sports market where none existed. Right. Beyond the local, going to high school gyms and whatnot, we had the facility there to do it. But similar to what we're talking about, soon became known that we're probably going to need another one, because it really took off. And I really like the sports market. I think it does a couple of things, beyond just the economic impact. And if you don't mind my saying so, I think it's also a big help to the locals in 2 major ways. Because first of all, they're going to use the space Monday through Friday, pretty much, right? But think of the money that they get to save by not traveling some of those weekends, So not only do we get the economic impact, but we also reverse the negative from our friends and neighbors traveling. So that's something that doesn't often come up, but it's erasing that negative draw and the impact on local people that I think is really important too.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. I have a question about the Owensboro Sports Center, and this might be an Amanda thing, I don't know, but it's old, needs some new stuff. What would you do to make that facility a little bit more 22nd century?
Well, that's a.
I'm putting you on the spot. Man.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that could be
you said you'd stand for.
That could be a long conversation. I think, first of all, it's not in bad shape. It's an older building, to be sure. There are things, that if funds were unlimited, could we start replacing all of the seats and everything else? But I've been through that in an arena. That is such a huge amount of money that I'm not sure I would dare lead off with that, because I don't know that it's really going to keep us from booking it, as it is. I think that the retractable risers that are going in now, they're ordered, you funded it, they've not arrived yet. Those are significant. I think that's a really nice upgrade. I think that there's been some consistent capital put into that building over the years, or it wouldn't be as in good a shape as it is. If we can keep that up, that's definitely on the good thing. And there's some things that, buildings of that age, we gotta keep an eye out for windows, roofs, under wastewater pipes and so on. So we'll keep an eye on those things, but I think it's definitely the right trajectory. Maybe a little bit more. I know that Spectrum made an investment in the concessions. That's right? So I could see maybe a little bit of tweaks there, some tweaks to entryways and ticketing, but overall it's in good shape. We've got, I don't have anything confirmed, but I'm traveling to Austin and then I'm going to Nashville. There's 2 industry conventions that are really looking at booking, more acts in there. We've got a number of irons in the fire to try to bring some, think like classic rock and, Disney on Ice kind of, or not Disney on Ice, but like Sesame Street Live kind of stuff. I'd like to bring some additional programming there. We're spending a lot of time doing that. So, but no, I think it's not in bad shape at all.
So you're not going to the seats, huh? They're about 14 inches wide, don't you?
I do. It's just such a huge amount of money. I'd love to talk about that. I just, I didn't want to lead off with that very thing because although it's an obstacle, I don't think it's not a deal breaker.
Okay. Meg?
First, welcome to Owensboro.
Thank you, sir.
And I think it's a big asset to have you involved. I really like some of the things you're trying new, like the last Friday after 5, bringing the band out on the pier. It seemed to open up that walkway, and it was less congested, and things like that I like to see happen. So continue the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, my question, and I know you've just gotten here, welcome to Owensboro, and thank you for getting out in the community. I mean, I've now heard that you were at, or seen you at several community groups. You're getting out there and promoting the good news. But my question is the third hotel. That has been, prior to you getting here, the argument was we can bid for larger conventions, larger events. Do you feel, and I know you just got your feet on the ground 90 days, but do you feel that way? And if so, what are some of those larger meetings we could have that we can't accommodate now?
Okay. I do feel that way, and thank you for the welcome. I do feel that way. I think that it's a matter of, hotels are, I'm not going to get 100% of any hotel's rooms. And that's okay. They've got to take care of their transient guests and there's other things going on in the community. We're not the only thing going on, Bluegrass Museum, River Park, right? So, we're kind of all sharing those hotel rooms. It's a vibrant community. There's lots of stuff going on. Some of the larger conventions, like we have Kentucky Society of Association Executives here right now, So, talking to those groups, if they fit, we'll bring multiples in at the same time, which is ideal, talking to the folks at the dog show, So at the dog show, you have this dog show, it's a mixed breed show, but there's also breed specialty shows. So we started reaching out to, some of the breed specific shows, which are national shows, and they're not huge. They're maybe 300-400 dogs, but you could do, if the stars align, you get 2 or 3 of those at or near the same time, especially because you got to plastic the floor and everything, and the hotels just want to clean those rooms once, really that deep cleaning. So we're looking at really a variety of groups. There's nothing off the table, but those are some of the more specific ones. That association executive membership list, dog shows, and there's a slew of others.
Thank you.
Sure.
And welcome.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to reiterate something that Jeff said. He mentioned in passing, but I want to make sure everyone understands fully that the 21-22 fiscal year was the first time that the operations of the convention center have been an operating profit, has been in the black. And so I think that's noteworthy. So I want to commend Jeff and Laura and the staff there. But I just want to make sure that we saw that that was the first time that the center had operated in the black. And so I think that's significant and noteworthy.
Stole my line. But you're the money man, right?
Well, thank you all, and
Hang on a
again,
minute, we got one more precinct to be heard from. Commissioner
Sir.
Castleton.
Yes, I noticed that you mentioned how the sports flooring has paid off. I just wanted to tip my hat to Mark Calitri for suggesting that we get that. He really fought hard for us to step in that arena, and it's paying off big time. And, you know, just want to thank him for that, and you guys for promoting it as much as you have.
thank
And
you.
it's mobile.
Yes. And it's
Okay, you may sit down, Mr. Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, Owensboro Convention and Business Bureau Annual Update. Mr. Mark Calitri, President and CEO.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Mark Calitri with Visit Owensboro on Breeze Court. That was a very positive report we've heard from the Convention Center. Yeah, the big reason for that success is because we have a great team at the center. Visit Owensboro's got a solid team, and we've had a laser focus on bringing outside groups into Owensboro. It's all about meetings, conventions, and trade shows, and the indoor sports. That's where it's at. We got to keep piling it on meetings, conventions, and indoor sports. That's where our success is going to lie. 2022 set an all-time record for the number of room nights produced. Okay, that number has doubled any of the other previous years since the building's been in operation. We tripled the number in 2017. So we've got a lot of positive momentum. And just for example, this fall, we've got a conference going on right now. We've got conferences for the next 2 straight weeks. We take a week off, and then back to back to back to back conferences all the way through November. So the whole fall is looking like it's just going to finish out as strong as we started out the first of the year. I would say 23 is looking like it's going to stay at that same level that we produced this year. 24 is looking strong. In 23, we also host the world's largest geocaching event leading up to Memorial Day holiday. So that'll be a big deal. They're doing all the registration at the convention center, so that's going to expose people from all 50 states, and about 15 countries so far have already registered. I would say one of the things that I wanted to highlight is you have to have a good, strong center team to execute on all this business, and we have that. And we have by far one of the finest convention centers right on the river that anybody has in the United States. But at the end of the day, that's a building, and I just wanted to say thank you and give a shout out to you, Mayor, and the commissioners, because what the customer is buying is what you are building and what you're supporting out there. The customer is buying this buzz and excitement Owensboro has. The customer's buying this amazing riverfront, the walkability, and the bars and the restaurants, Friday after 5, the Bluegrass Museum. We've got the whole components all put together. And most importantly that we're selling now is we're very safe here. And it is very easy to recommend somebody to walk downtown. So we're very happy with that. And that's a lot of the reasons we're having success. So hopefully you can join me in continuing on with that momentum that we have. And just a lot of positivity, and the future does look bright. So that's all I have.
I'm excited about the KLC conference. You know, I was on a Zoom with those people, and it's amazing how many people hadn't been west of Elizabethtown, much less to Owensboro. So we're going to get some, you know, I think we were ranked the most underrated city in the Commonwealth. So put your high hat on and let's make it a show, because we have, what, 400 and something cities in the Commonwealth. Some of them have 800 people in them, but we need to really put a show on for the KLC, as you would anybody, but I think that's going to be a good thing for us.
And if I could add too, just one of the things we're doing is we've got to add a whole lot more service. We've got to work a little bit harder than some of the bigger cities. We've been working closely on that group with Tim Ross and the events department. We're providing shuttles to the hotels and all throughout the downtown area. for the whole day, all day that the conference is going in. So those customers will have on-demand transportation all day. So we're trying to give that little bit of extra service for those folks. So it's a
Good deal.
team effort.
Thank you, sir.
Have a comment?
To Mr. Fletcher?
Oh, is he gone? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Mark, thank you and everybody visit Owensboro for the marketing and the success of our city and the downtown. And, you know, we got a variety of events that goes on there, and it took a lot of people a few years to get this to that point. And so I just wanted to say thank you and keep up the good work. And I think next year is going to be a great future for us. Thanks.
Comment, and that is, I remember when the floor was being discussed and debated and how controversial it was, and you go and do research and you can see it's a great investment. So again, I want to give credit to you and your staff for stepping out, putting your head on the chopping block and making that courageous promotion, because it's turned out to be a great decision. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for your staff.
City manager?
Mine will be very brief. I just want to acknowledge Mark as well. Community success takes partnerships, and to visit Owensboro as a good partner with the convention center, with Tim Ross. I went over last week and met with Mark for an hour or so, as we do fairly regularly as well. I also want to take just a quick second to acknowledge that the board chair from Visit Owensboro is here, Claude Bacon from Linden Gate Hospitality. So I want to acknowledge his presence and appreciate his insights that he provides to the community as well.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you all. And now here comes the glue that holds all this together, Tim Ross, with the Hydrofare.
I don't know about that, sir. I try. Tim Ross, the Director of Public Events. So I wanted to provide a kind of a debrief or a recap of the Owensboro Hydrofare that we did just a couple of weeks ago, August 20 and 21. If you were down near English Park or saw English Park, it was certainly a busy area there in the pits for the 50-plus teams that were in town, as well as all the fire rescue, emergency response, chief and all his crews, Coulter Tate and Bobby Grant, that coordinated 12 or 13 different agencies. So English Park was quite busy with folks, and obviously we had some great racing out on the river this year with teams both Saturday and Sunday as well. Sponsorships for the event this year were up about $10,000 compared to the year before. The weather was great. Everybody that's been here in Owensboro for a while, Jeff will get used to it soon, but August is normally pretty gross. It's pretty hot, pretty humid, and thank goodness that we didn't have those temperature issues this year, because we take that into account a lot for spectators as well as the racing teams, but the temperatures were very favorable this year. River conditions were great. We all know last year that the river did not cooperate with us, and so we were fighting debris and fighting river levels quite a bit, and but not this year. This year the river was good for us, and so the racing was good. We held all the heats that were planned for all the different divisions and classes of boats, both Saturday and Sunday, and then we did a live stream broadcast this year that we tried to really bump up to be able to recognize our sponsors better, as well as market our community and our riverfront to folks that couldn't be here in town, and so. The broadcast of that, if you weren't able to see it, was really exceptional. The group and team that we had putting that together just did a tremendous job. There was an announcer both at English Park as well as downtown to give some good commentary back and forth, and the camera shots of the riverfront and the drone, it just really worked really, really well. And there were viewers on that live stream from all throughout North America, as well as New Zealand and Australia and Canada, part of North America. There was some of the international teams that were in town, so there was some good viewership from around the globe of the racing that was going on here in town that weekend. We say it regularly that we can't, we've talked today several times about partners, and with this event again, Jago Homes, Owensboro Health that you see there, Renegade Race Fuel, which is part of Valor Oil, as well as Sunbelt Rentals and South Central Bank, all a big part of making that weekend happen financially for us. As we typically do with our events that are going on, whether it's July 4th or barbecue or the Hydrofare, we try to have other events that are around it to kind of add to the festivities. So in addition to the racing, Friday after 5, working with Fran, they had one of their national acts in that night and had some good crowds there at the Holiday Inn with Blanco Brown. We did Bridge Day traditionally that we do, whether it's tied to Air Show or Hydrofare, and so big crowds on there, and we talked to Chief Elam's crew that were out there, and they were verifying what the crowd levels were for that. So, and doing some counts at different times throughout the day, more than 6,000 folks got to enjoy strolling or biking or running, whatever they wanted to do across the bridge, which was great. And then that night, we've got a normal concert series every Saturday, but we did it a little different with some bigger acts as part of that downtown summer jam, and then the fireworks. And they were really pleased with the crowd compared to what is out there normally on Saturday nights, that they had a good crowd down there for that as well. As far as the racing goes itself, unfortunately, attendance was down less than anticipated this year than what we were hoping for. Hotel occupancy and the convention center revenues were down compared to last year as well. And so cost-wise, operationally for the event, we got a net cost of about $175,000. We're still waiting on a couple of invoices to come in, but that's pretty close based on our estimates that we've got. And so just like this event, Hydrofare, just like everything else that we do, we analyze that on a year-to-year basis, what was working, what wasn't working, and recommendations moving forward with those events. And so based on what we've already scheduled more than a year ago, we've got the Owensboro Air Show next year as a kind of a signature event in the fall, September 15 to 17 of 2023. So at this point, we're not planning to proceed with another Hydrofare event again next year unless we get different direction from the commission. And so that's just a quick kind of overview, bird's eye view of it, and a recap, and happy to take any questions you might have.
Commissioner Kessler.
I went to the Hydrofare, and I have to say I was really disappointed with the lack of people showing up. I mean, I don't know if it's something that's just kind of dying off, you know, a thing of the past. You know, sometimes trends come and go, and I wonder if that's one of them that's, you know, kind of reached its peak and is going down everywhere every year. And it kind of makes me see why Evansville went ahead and abandoned it. But anyway, thanks for all the work that you've done, Tim.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
So, it went about $10,000 over what you budgeted.
As far as gross expenses go, I think so.
And the live stream from American Hydro Plant events was several thousand going on just the Saturday and Sunday. So that was a big thing. I mean, there's people, talking about thousands of people that got to see this race, and Owensboro mentioned many times, and the sponsors mentioned, I think was a good asset and a good thing. In my opinion, we've done the hard part. We've got racing teams from everywhere, from New Zealand to Canada, New York, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and all up in the Seattle area to come to Owensboro, bring your teams, and you know, there was about 1,700 rooms sold, minus maybe 120 for the sports events. So my opinion, we might need to look at the marketing a little bit different. And like I say, those people come in, spend a lot of money, and that's a big, big thing to try to overcome. I think that that was our first year, and we've got a lot of things we could do to build on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I think the fact that, you know, you talk about having multiple events, and I think that was the nice part about the Hydrofare, but I know we had a volleyball tournament. We had a lot of stuff going on that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that Commissioner Magler and I have talked about is I think I went down, and the crowd in the convention center was decent. I didn't think it was that bad, but I think part of it is people need to know what they're seeing. They need to know what they're watching, particularly with the racing. And I know that a lot of sporting groups that come in, they actually do kind of a, you know, Hydrofare 101 type thing, and say, this is what you're watching, this is how you win, you know, that kind of thing. And I think if we did that, even as part of our marketing, I think it would increase the attendance. I think it really would increase the visibility of it and make it more interpretable for those who are not experts and, you know, didn't grow up with the sport. But it's a fun sport. The weather, like you said, was perfect. It was exciting to watch. I wasn't quite sure when they won, you know, to be honest. But that can be overcome very easily with, you know, a little bit of tilt to the marketing. You say, this is how you win. this is what you're looking at. And I think if people do, I think our attendance and all that would go up.
Okay.
But thank you, Tim, and your staff for all your hard work.
Yes, sir.
Very much appreciated.
Okay. Can you speak again?
Yes. Thank you. Kind of going on what Bob was saying and Larry were saying, the commissioners, you know, the live stream, you mentioned there were several thousand. I don't look at that as all that many. I mean, I've got a daughter that does TikTok, and if she doesn't get 25, 30,000 views, you know, daily, she's had a bad day. And this is a huge event that we spend a lot of money on. The bridge crossing had a lot better attendance than what the Hydro Show did, the Hydrofare. And I'm just curious, as far as to like the air show, how does it stack up against the air show in money spent and number attending and revenue and all?
Sure. The air show's got a little bit more history to it, but we've got a noticeably bigger impact with the air show compared to this event financially. So we said, you know, about $175,000 net operating cost for the event for this year. Last year's air show net operating cost was about $185,000, about $185,000. Convention Center, for theirs, they had a net revenue this year. So they sell reserve seating tickets, corporate hospitality from different businesses and things like that. And so they had a net profit this year for the event, for the Hydrofare, about $13,000. Comparatively, the air show last time was about $70,000 of revenue. So anything that Jeff and Jamie and their crew, subsidies, profits, nets, that all comes back because it's city owned, right? So the better they do, the better we do as a whole. Their budgets are separate than my operating. So cost is, you know, comparable, 175 compared to 185,000, but attendance obviously is drastically different between those two events.
Okay. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. One item that I think is worth consideration as we debate over the next little bit about doing Hydrofare next year or not is the toll on our staff. Last year we did both the Hydrofare and an air show, and it was incredibly, incredibly difficult on our staff. Now, granted, they were in proximity together, but we're already committed to an air show next year. We have the Thunderbirds, which is one of the well-known jet teams that are coming to town, so we anticipate it being a rather large air show again. And so don't lose sight of the staff. And I don't know if it's Tim's comments, he referenced that the fire department was managing coordination with 13 or 14 different agencies, so they have to do that regularly. Chief Elam, I just had a conversation within the last 2 weeks about staffing is such a challenge, and it is a challenge for them to get officers to work these kind of events. You know, officers hesitant to give up their weekends when they can be home with their families and come in on overtime for these types of events. So there is a very, very large toll that our staff pay from a morale issue and a workforce issue. So don't lose sight of that as we make have these deliberations in the next month or two.
I was just kind of disappointed in the attendance downtown more than anything else. I saw more policemen than I saw people watching it. You know, that's the only thing that bothered me about it, because I know if they come down, they're going to spend a little money, and maybe they're staying over, maybe they're not. So, you know, and I feel like unless we can get this thing to net zero, and last year I think Commissioner Maglinger said that he would help with the sponsors this year. I don't know how all that turned out, but you know, I think we need to look at trying to figure out a way to do this again without losing any more money than we have to. And you know, that's what, almost $400,000 in 2 years. It's considerable in my conservative viewpoint. Okay. Now let's get to the important stuff. Item number 5, ECU crime scene investigation. Officer Parham, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Mayor, Commissioners, City staff, thank you for having me. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jim Parham. I'm Supervising Officer of the Owensboro Police Crime Scene Evidence Collection Unit. Next slide, please. Yes, I have that? Oh, well, I'll do that myself.
Just pretend like
how's that? Okay.
You're shooting something.
Sorry.
Shoot the screen.
Yeah, gotcha. Staffing. We're a small unit assigned to the Support Services Unit of the Police Department.
Get on the mic a little more.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're a small unit assigned to the support services unit of the police department. We consist of 3 investigators, including myself. I'm a working investigator and supervisor, also latent print examiner. Under me, I have 2 other investigators and latent print examiners, Officer Jeff Roby. The other position is vacant. Officer Ken Bennett recently retired. We're working on filling that currently. We also have a part-time officer, Dane Holder, who does property and evidence management to free us up to do forensic type work. And we also have a full-time secretary. All the officers in the unit are retirees. The unit is sworn non-hazardous. You have to have 10 years full-time law enforcement experience and a bunch of other requirements to work back there. So it takes some time to fill these positions with experienced retirees who have the law enforcement knowledge that we need to do this job. And then they go on to the Criminalistics Academy, where we do 10 weeks of training just to do forensic type work. Our unit has 3 primary responsibilities: investigation of major crime scenes, we act as property and evidence custodians, and we have a full-service latent print laboratory. Investigation of major crime scenes, I put some photographs of some of the things that we do in response to major or complex scenes, typically crimes against persons. We don't do a lot of property type crimes. All of our officers at the police department are trained to do their own crime scene analysis, crime scene processing. But if you get in something very big, very complex, murders, things like that, some advanced skill sets are required, and that's where we step in and we come out and work those types of cases. Some of the things that you see here, some of our cases, some of our shooting cases with a lot of evidence, a lot of shell casings, bullet trajectory analysis, blood spatter analysis, those kinds of things. We also act as property and evidence custodian. We usually receive about 7,000 individual pieces of property and evidence per year. Currently, we have on hand about 23,000 pieces of property and evidence. It's all barcoded, logged by the officers, and tracked from the time it comes in and to the time it's disposed of, which we maintain what's called a chain of custody. So we can show where everything has been, who's had access to it for court purposes to make it credible evidence to be presented in court. Some of the photos there, it's Officer Holder working in our main evidence vault at the police department. A couple pictures top left are that facility. The other pictures are across the street at our evidence warehouse and our vehicle storage lot. Currently we have about 35 vehicles on hand, usually fluctuates between 30 and 50 vehicles that we're holding. It's a variety of reasons, sir. A lot of them are drug cases. The vehicles are going to be forfeited and auctioned, and then the money, go to the drug fund. Some of them are evidence in cases. Some of those cases that you saw that were filled with bullet holes, those were required for court purposes and further forensic analysis and those kinds of things. Some of them are related to other types of cases, thefts and burglaries and so forth, traffic crashes, just the whole gamut. We have a lot of bicycles, yes, sir. Yeah, we get a lot of bikes. Yes, sir. They find them unattended, they ride them for a while, and then they toss them, and then we pick them up and maintain them until they're identified as who they belong to, and they go back to the owner. Or they get auctioned at the city auction. Yes, sir, correct, yeah. Latent Print Laboratory, the Latent Print Lab is one of the things that I'm really proud of that we do. We run a full-service Latent Print Laboratory, one of only about 4 in Kentucky. Within the Latent Print Laboratory, we have 2 board-certified latent print examiners, myself and Jeff Roby. There's only 3 certified examiners in the state, and there's only about 1,000 in the world. You don't have to be certified to do the work. You have to be trained to competency. Certification is an above and beyond process of education and testing that we go through. And again, we have 2 of those here. The reason that we stood up a latent print lab is when we came back, when the unit was changed over from hazardous to non-hazardous in 2008, and we went back and started working, we were supported by the State Police Latent Print Lab. And they're great folks up there. They do really good work, but they're extremely backlogged supporting the entire state. So if you send them something to process, or if you send them latent prints collected from a scene, you could expect a response in about 18 months. And you think of 18 months, how long, what can happen in 18 months of a suspect being unidentified, how much more stuff they're going to do, and those kinds of things, and it can be pretty dramatic. So we were fortunate that we had a retired Secret Service examiner who was from this area. He moved home. He was bored after he retired, reached out to us and said, hey, I could train you guys if you'd like me to. And we had no idea what we were getting into, but we brought him on board, and he started training us on a volunteer basis. It continued to grow. We ended up contracting with him, and now he's moved on, and we're trained in-house as latent print examiners, and again as board certified latent print examiners, and we're working to train new folks to keep that up and running because we've had a huge amount of success with the Latent Print Lab. We had a Homeland Security grant for about $70,000 to $80,000 to purchase the AFIS system, the Automated Fingerprint Identification System, which allows us to take a latent print, a hidden print from a crime scene that's been developed and search it against known prints that are in the system from arrestees. And we can make identifications from those prints, and we do that regularly. We're on track, I think I got it in this slide, we're on track to work about 600 latent print cases this year. And of those 600, we'll probably identify prints in about 100 of those cases. So we have a lot of success with latent print work here, and we're really proud of what we do with that. Some of the pictures there are myself and Officer Roby doing latent print work at the AFIS station, some of the chemical processes, photography, and those kinds of things. At the bottom are fingerprints on paper on a job application of a guy that was filling out job application, and he'd go in and assault the staff and try to find the cash box and steal it and leave. Bottom right is a chemically developed latent print from a piece of broken glass in a burglary. We also do body identification. Again, we're, this part of the state, we're the only full-service latent print laboratory. State police have asked us to assist the Western Kentucky Medical Examiner's Office out of Madisonville and also the local coroner's office in identifying dead bodies. We have advanced training in how to recover the fingerprints from decomposed corpses and how to photograph those, collect those with different chemical means, and then we can search them through the AFIS system. Okay, I can move on. and those were edited down. we did put those up there with that in mind, so we cut that way down. That could have been a lot worse. My apologies. So that's what we do in the crime scene unit. Yes, sir.
For you, sir. Other than probably personnel, are there any other tools that you need that we could help you with?
That's being done, sir. You guys
Okay.
have supported us in a great fashion. Chief Elam has given us everything we need from training to equipment. We're purchasing new large pieces of equipment every year, new photography equipment. We're on schedule to replace older things with newer things, and we pretty much have what we need.
Great. Anybody else?
Okay.
I've got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a cold case unit? And if so, is that affiliated with what you do at all?
We don't have a cold case unit per se out of the crime scene unit. Now, I can speak to that a little bit. We have what are called reverse hits. Whenever we run a latent fingerprint from a crime scene, if we don't mark that as identified, whenever we get the returns back, let's say that the contributor of that latent print hadn't been arrested and he or she doesn't have prints in the system at the time, but then they get arrested 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, that print is searching constantly. And if there is what the computer thinks to be a high degree of association between the latent print and a new inked print or collected print electronically from an arrestee, then we get a notification saying, hey, your examiners need to take a look at this print because the computer thinks there's a good likelihood it's going to be an identification. You can never take the human element out. It's not like TV where you just put it in and this is your guy. Matter of fact, as difficult as it is to get some of this expensive equipment, having the trained examiners is the tough part. If we hadn't had Sam Durrett from Secret Service step forward and train us to where we can keep this going, this would have never happened. That's why you don't see it in police departments our size.
And I just have a practical question. So you showed us a picture with a lot of cars, that you're keeping.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be helpful to have like an indoor place to store them? Don't they get degraded potentially if they're sitting outside? I'm just asking.
Yeah, they,
Layperson's
of course,
question.
certainly, yeah, yes, sir, they do. And we try to pick and choose ones that need to be protected. We can tarp them. We even have some indoor storage space that we can keep them briefly. But if there's some that need to be protected even more, we do try to tarp those. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for your great work.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
No, thank you.
Appreciate you. City project list, city manager Nate Pagan.
Thank you, Mayor. You've had the project list for review, and nothing in particular I'll point out this month, but if you have any questions or comments, we're happy to address those for you.
Commissioner Glenn?
I did have a question, thanks. Craven's Pool, so September 8th, we put the deadline for submission for bids. Am I reading that right? City manager?
Yeah, I believe that's correct, and I see Amanda heading to the
Okay.
podium. Remember, this is the second
Sorry to
bid.
put
The
you on
initial
the
bid.
spot, Amanda. I just
That's
looked
all
at
right.
the date, I'm thinking,
Yes,
So how's
that's,
that going, I guess is my question.
that is correct. The deadline was last Thursday. We've received 2 submissions.
Okay.
So right now, they're in the hands of those that will be scoring those submissions and making a decision on who to work with to do the design aspect of this project.
But unlike some projects, we got bids, so.
We got 2. I'm
Yes.
very content with that.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Amanda.
Anybody else? Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed?